we're now coming up on our closing speaker for today. And our closing speaker is actually a treat / a surprise. When we first built, when we first built the itinerary for today, and I'm pretty surprised that for the most part we kept the schedule. When we first built the itinerary, we had a very simple layout. We're going to follow the system of RDFI, Regional Development Financing Initiative, which you have with your packets and we've spoken about all day. And we're going to close. And then we're going to move on into day 2 of the conference, which begins tomorrow, a more diplomatic, if you will, approach where we'll hear from not only Israeli government, but also from international with a focus on American government. But then I got a call from a friend and a colleague, actually a roommate of mine, from Denny. How long ago was it? 20 years? Something like that. Before Denny and I were both married, we were roommates in a bachelor apartment in Jerusalem, and it's amazing how things kind of connect. And Danny, through a mutual contact also in Los Angeles, the team was instrumental in introducing us to something called ADC energy. And I'm not going to tell you about ADC energy. I'm going to tell you just 2 reasons why it's so important to hear from Henry Lee, our guest who also flew in specifically for this event. Number 1, ADC energy is nothing short of a miraculous innovation. I allow myself to say that in the presence of an Iron Dome engineer because pretty much he and Professor Gadi Golan from the Electrical Engineering Department of Oriel University have explained it to be as such. If there's any tech terminology, Henry, we're going to assume that none of us are really going to understand it, and that's fine. I just need you to know that this is not, it's just, it's monumental. The other point is that we've spoken about how to get domestic investments. We even had a live example where we introduced a Palestinian developer and Miriam Billig, Professor Miriam Billig from the R&D Center. But what about that international investment that we've been alluding to over the course of the day? Where are those American or foreign companies that are looking to this region and saying, there's an opportunity, that's something I'd like to get involved in? Henry Lee brings us that voice. Henry, if you could please join us.
Let's start with a big round of applause for Avi and Ari and everybody who created and participated in this fantastic forum. Only in Israel could a Korean boy who grew up on the streets of Los Angeles be talking about the cure to climate change at an Israeli-Palestinian economic summit. Only in Israel. My name is Henry Lee. I am the CEO of ADC Energy USA. ADC Energy is a research and development company. We have developed a new form of energy transmission with which we can battery power an entire building using the equivalent voltage of 3 9-volt batteries. As a business, our mission is very simple. It's 2 words. It is power everyone. Together, we can power everyone. So today, we have a subject to discuss. But before we start with a smarter man than myself. Albert Einstein really boiled it down to a simple solution. We need to change the way we think. And when you leave here today, my goal is that I have challenged the way you think about energy. What is the problem we face today? Climate change. Whether you believe it or not, something is happening with our climate. My research staff gave me this picture and I said, what is that, a bunch of fish? It's actually thousands and thousands of walrus who died because the temperature of the ocean changed. So to bring this in perspective, imagine 5 rooms the size of what you're sitting in filled with a bunch of dead walrus. Whether you believe it or not, something is happening. There is a problem out there. We have a deadline, 12 years according to the United Nations. Remember these words, shrink the economy and kill thousands. I submit to you that this is already happening in my state, in California. This is the old way of thinking. You or me, my idea is better than your idea, this way or that. Coal, petroleum, nuclear, or 100% renewable energy. It is a division in the thought process on either or. That same thinking applies to the foundation of energy. Throughout the entire history of energy, there's only been two ways to transmit: AC power or DC power. If you understand the history of Edison and Tesla, the reason that the world went AC power is because of one critical issue with DC power. DC power does not transmit long distance. So in order to utilize the either or in energy transmission, you have to have a component known as an inverter. If you have your laptop or your cell phone, your AC adapter is the same thing. It is switching back and forth because there's only two ways of transmitting energy. So, renewable energy, here's your current solution. Renewable energy, specifically solar panels, generate in DC power. What that means is you need to get it off the panel, transmit long distance, and then get it to the end user. In order to do that, you have to use the inverter. When you use the inverter and you convert back and forth, you create a situation called harmonics, also known as nonlinear loads. When you transmit harmonics into the utility, the result is pretty obvious. This is undisputed science. I'm not a scientist, but I'm sure the engineers in the room will tell you. Harmonics, nonlinear loads, when you transmit that into the utility system is a pure AC system. It does, in fact, create losses. Recurring theme. Recurring theme. We'll go back one. California. Recently, we had the two largest fires in U.S. history in California. Both of those were specifically related back to a failure in the utility equipment. The largest one, the Camp Fire, Northern California, the largest solar farm feeds directly into the area where the utility failed. So, PG&E also filed for bankruptcy. The largest utility in our state filed for bankruptcy, and I think 89 people died in this fire. So you already have economic losses. You already have people dying. What's going on? China is becoming the world's renewable energy superpower. Note those two words: energy, superpower. Energy is power. So this is the traditional method, the same thinking. AC power is literally a one-way street. You go one way from generation to end user. But the thought came up, why don't we incorporate renewable energy and utilize our grid? So what do? We add solar panels to buildings through a feed-in tariff for net metering. We generate nonlinear loads and feed them back into the utility. And now we're adding solar farms, wind farms, getting bigger and bigger. More harmonics, more nonlinear loads. Result, same thing. This is already happening throughout the U.S. A lot of this information I got from a 300-page research paper done by the Hawaii Electric Company, at the end of which they said, our utilities cannot handle all of the nonlinear loads coming in from the feed-in tariff. So they ended the feed-in tariff. One thing that we forget when we're piling solar panels and wind power onto our existing utility, in the U.S., the second greatest national asset behind our defense, our military, is our national utility. It's valued at a minimum of $5 trillion. This asset is being deteriorated without a proper thought process in place. As a result, let's add more solar panels. Let's add more wind power to our existing utility. This is the current thought process future. It's already happened in California. So, what do we bring to the table? ADC Energy is not an either-or scenario. We are an and scenario. Our concept is to work together. Instead of either DC power or AC power, we say power everyone. Here's how we do it. What we're bringing to this summit, to this region, is a seed. We consider our technology a seed that wherever it plants, it can grow and be nurtured. Another way of saying it is an investment of technology through development as additional applications grow out of it, additional revenue streams, additional jobs are created. Our technology, however, is not a concept, and I'll show you at the end. It has sprouted, it is growing, it is working. How do we do it? We've created a new form of energy transmission called alternating direct current, ADC energy. Our technology can perform two critical functions that no other technology in the world can perform. One, we can transmit AC and DC simultaneously on existing wires. I can tell you, I presented this concept to the top level engineers in the world. I have literally been yelled at. That's impossible, Harry, you can't do that, get out of my office. But it does work. Number two, we can transmit DC power long distance without an inverter. Pure DC power from origination, long distance to end user. That last function, Thomas Edison couldn't figure out. ADC Energy has completed the long distance transmission of DC power. So, this is our business model. We call it the on-site microgrid. First phase one product. Oop, too fast. Okay, phase one product, battery powered lighting. We can power the lighting systems of any building with equivalent voltage of 24 volts. The two major energy uses in any facility is lighting, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. Next phase is solar powered lighting. We have just taken lighting usage off grid. The batteries power, the panels power our batteries, the batteries power the lights. And then we have phase three. The beauty of technology.
Move the arrow onto the screen. There, move it to the side, there you go.
Phase three, solar powered HVAC. We've now removed anywhere from 70 to 90% of a facility's load and powered it on site with ADC Energy. We call it the on-site microgrid, nicknamed the OMG for short. The OMG generates energy on site, stores on site, and utilizes on site. These are the three components of ADC Energy that create the two critical functions. We could discuss that later. But as an example, we are installed, we are operating. This is a 100,000 square foot facility in Anaheim. We installed phase one battery powered lighting in the warehouse, in 2 floors of office space and exterior. If you put a voltmeter up to the wires powering the lights, you would see that they're being powered by the equivalent voltage, literally, of 3 9-volt batteries.
Wow.
Thank you. So the concept is not an either or, but an and. Work together. You can have the best of both worlds, both AC power and DC power, should you utilize the existing model of central generation, or you could have a distributed generation model where each OMG is powering itself 70 to 90%. So we're looking towards a combination of flexibility. Consider our technology an operating system like Microsoft Windows. You plug in other technologies and we just make everything cleaner, safer, more efficient. So under the new paradigm, we can utilize existing assets, power on site, but also generate off-site, and transmit DC power long distance, and in this way you have the best of both worlds. The ADC solution is a concept of a series of microgrids throughout the nation. We also have an economic factor involved. One thing I'll emphasize is the concept, which might be important in the area, is national security. That if a central power generation system or the utility ever went down, you would still have a series of demand-side OMGs providing not perfect power, but anywhere from 70 to 90% of the facility's power needs. So if you lose your central power generation, like in Puerto Rico, each facility can still power itself. That way you have energy independence at the facility site. To confirm, we are not a concept. We've been validated, we've been certified, we have been installed, we are working, we are deploying this year. We've been validated by way of the patent office, the U.S. Greenbelt Council, if you've heard of them. If you've heard of NASA, we've been there as well. So at the U.S. Greenbelt Council, I presented near identical information, a little more on the science end. We also went, that's our inventor, Mr. Choi, went to NASA Langley Research Center. From U.S. Greenbelt Council, we received certification saying the information you're providing to us is sound. It is based on science. We approve it to be used as continuing education to certify folks for LEED certification. We also received a formal signed invitation from NASA to install, to have a joint collaboration with NASA for their energy needs. Came in September, and then our government shut down. And haven't heard from him in a while. But last week, did pop up and said, I'm back at the job, I got a paycheck, let's get this thing going. So we also have an economic strategy in terms of financing funding, which is another talk altogether. But there is money out there that already exists for this type of application. When you become the sole source technology providing an energy solution, there is R&D money already out there. We provide a national security option as well, so there's funding at that level as well. There's also funding and revenue streams from the efficiency levels at the consumption site. So if the consumer is saving 70 to 90%, we've just freed up 70 to 90% of their energy bill so that they can invest into other areas. So why are we here? Our good friend Professor Golan was communicating with us and said we would like to do something together. So we came to Ariel, and the goal here is to create a beacon. So in the morning we were talking about tourism. I'm talking about creating an energy beacon, starting with Ariel, starting with the area, so that it's not an issue of, do I come here for leisure? But I'm going to actually come here with an economic strategy, learn how I can make money, learn how these folks are really forward thinking, and bring this back and deploy it worldwide. So next step, tomorrow we visit Ariel University. I would like to leave you with this one thought, that it's not an either or, it's never been an either or doesn't work. My last thought to you is together we can power everyone. Toda rabah.
First, let's hear an applause for all of our speakers today and all of our presentations. I hope you're all as excited as I am. I remember, Henry, I think our first call a couple of months back when we just started getting the ball rolling. And the reason Henry is here today, in addition to all the points that he just mentioned before, is because of persistence. And all the people from Henry to Gotti to Danny to everybody who's been involved in this process, everyone's been moving it forward. And that's really how we're going to see all of these projects up to their fruition.